Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Promoted channel. I appreciate you joining me today. Again, I'm going to do things a little bit different in the other video, the second video for this week, and I'm going to touch on some different kind of posts and news articles and things that I saw throughout the week that seem to kind of be some hot topics, some things that are also infuriating, and um, some things that might also bring some hope. So we're just kind of cover the gambit. I'm going to give you my thoughts, summarize some things, and we will go from there. If you like this format, if you like this idea, want to see more of this type of video, please like the video, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all those good things. And without further ado, let's dive in here. So the first article that caught my eye, I believe, was over at Business Insider, if I recall correctly, and it was that 42% of people in the workforce are actively saying no to either being offered promotions or just straight up, if they're polled, that they don't want a promotion. So I'm going to attack this from both sides of the angles, how this is both a good thing and how this is a terrible thing. Let's go from the good thing. I think that for those of you that are hungry and that want to grow, it has never been easier. I mean, even if you assume that that's slightly inflated because it was a small poll of people, and even if you took half of that, so from the 42, 21, there's roughly 1 in 5 people you actively are now not competing against. That's incredible. I know that there's kind of the meme and, that it has never been easier to excel in life, but I think it's kind of true if you take this statistic, like I said, even remotely in heart, even if it's semi-accurate, if it's 50% accurate that 42% of people don't want a promotion or are actively denying them, that's insane. And it has never been easier to be promoted. And so truly, I have had the amount of clients and the amount of friends and the amount of colleagues that I have had the discussion with about how easy it is to actually excel and move up in the world today professionally. And they're just astonished with it because, especially if they were raised from very hard-nosed families where you almost could never do any right, and then they become an adult and all they can do is right because just the competition is so low. It's kind of astounding the amount of times I've had that conversation. So this one caught my eye. And really the primary things that are being cited were also kind of interesting. So one is the burnout. Just flat out, people believe that by going for a promotion or by going higher up the ladder, that their burnout's going to be worse. And the interesting thing about this is I believe, if I got my number correct, it was 76, 75s, somewhere around 3/4 of people that were the ones actively denying the promotions were saying that burnout was a huge factor, I believe. And the crazy thing to me about this in some regard is that the promotion could honestly lead to less burnout, because I am one of those people where I don't think burnout is due to the amount of work. I don't think it's due to the quantity of work. I believe it's due to what you are doing and what the work is and how fulfilling and how well you relate it to actually your internal state of being. I mean, even if you take it out, right? I mean, you can do something you love and you'll eventually just get burnt out and over it. But if you actually have the symptoms of burnout being brain fog, fatigue, lack of desire, lack of motivation, no goal orientation, so on and so forth. When has that been the case for you when you are well rested, exercised, and well dieted and just taking care of yourself? It's very rare that those symptoms come in regardless of your situation. So there's that. And then, yes, if you're doing stuff that just doesn't matter, that it's just garbage work that you hate every day, yeah, you're probably going to get burnt out on that. And the other interesting thing is that, I started to kind of get some burnout in my individual contributor career in the IT side. But then, ironically, when I took on more work of both the business of promoted and helping clients, but also getting into leadership, my burnout went down because while I was overall working more, the fulfillment of the work was so much more because I was actually having an impact on people's lives that I could touch. Like I could see the results and the impact I was having. So interesting that was a case. And kind of coinciding with this, a big thing I'm going to touch on very, very briefly is work-life balance. And people were citing that as a reason as well. Why they didn't want to go for the promotion is, again, going higher up the ladder means less work-life balance. Maybe this is a whole other video in and of itself that I'll do. Comment below if you do want me to do a video on this. But I think the long and skinny of it is work-life balance is bullshit. I think that it's just they're one and the same. Work and life are integrated. There are going to be people who want to live to work, and there are going to be people who want to work to live, and there are going to be people who never want to work, and people in between. And it's just the concept of work-life balance is just so individual that trying to actually have it be a metric at all is just asinine. And B, I think really the better way to frame it is asking yourself a couple questions. When you wake up in the morning, are you happy to be you? Like, are you glad that you are who you are? You know, when you are putting your head to sleep at the end of the day, are you fulfilled and pleased with the work that you did and what you did and the effort and the results you got in the day? Just asking yourself some of these basic questions about your well-being, I think, is way better than sitting there going, oh, what does so-and-so think about work-life balance? Or, oh, my friends tell me I'm working too much and my boss tells me to go home, blah, blah, blah. No, just judge yourself. Analyze yourself and your well-being. And, like, are you where you want to be or not? I don't know. I just think it's way simpler. Another one, which is BS, is people are not wanting these promotions because companies are doing title-only promotions. They're not doing any compensation, any benefits, anything. And I will be the first to tell you as a coach, absolutely not. If you were a client of mine, nope, not at all. Now, ironically, here's kind of my catch-22, maybe nuance to this a little bit, is when as someone who's also on the hiring side of the table and the promoting side of the table, I want to know you can do the work, and I want to see you do the work before I give you the promotion. Because the last thing that I want to do is take the gamble, give you the promotion, you can't do it, and then now what are my options, right? If I've already backfilled you, I can't demote you. So I now have to fire you because promoting you was a mistake. Like, that's just not smart. Or I have to find another place for you in the company, hopefully. Or we have to deal with you failing at that position, right? Like, none of these are great options. So I do want to see the work, but it's not going to be an official promotion. And this is also something to where doing this type of concept in writing, having it agreed upon, have maybe final decision makers be a part of that conversation to be, to make sure that it's solidified. Hey, if Susie, exhibits A, B, and C for the next 6 months, has these results, we on board with, making her supervisor or whatever it might be. Boom. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, title only promotions, BS. But you should be doing the work of the promotion before you get it. I think that should be guaranteed. But if you get the title, then that means you are promoted. You should get the comp. No questions asked. Your worst case scenario, let's say the company promotes you without that track record. They are doing a little bit of a leap of faith and they're saying, no, we're not going to give you any compensation. The worst case scenario that I would take is something concrete in writing with signatures, with start dates and effective dates that are going to evaluate your performance. So again, if we use that example of Susie, where I said, you have 3 different metrics and milestones that you got to hit with these results over 6 months, that is actually in writing and signed and agreed upon yourself, your manager, final decision maker, and even finance. Like, there should be somewhere between 2 and 4 signatures on that piece of paper that are saying, here's the date that this evaluation is starting. Here's what the actual tangible, measurable metrics of success are. And here's the date that the new compensation will take effect if these things are met. And if they aren't met, then also here's what happens in that event. If they aren't met, then you're put back. You're not promoted. You're kept in your current role or whatever that looks like. So yeah, if you're someone who's being offered a promotion and you're not getting the pay, absolutely not. Honestly, I would take that as probably a final straw, and I would start looking for a new place, because if they're that type of company, they're not going to where you want to be long term anyways. And the other one that I just thought was interesting was a just general societal definition of success or focus on career. And I get it. There's a lot of people who just think that it's the capitalistic society and corporate, and I'm just an exploited worker and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Is there are clearly younger people and people your age or younger or have worse situations or whatever it is that are doing more, getting more, receiving more, and so on and so forth. So who's the one that's actually out of whack here? again, the amount of conversations or the times I've had the same conversation around how easy it is to actually excel. Like, you don't need to sit there and put in 70, 80, 90, 100 plus hour work weeks before you start to do anything else in your life. I mean, if you put in a solid, like a true solid concerted effort of 45 to 55, maybe even upwards of 60 hours a week, and you can do that for 5, 7, 10 years, I promise you're going to be somewhere, and you're going to be high up there. You are going to be praised. You are going to be where you want to be consistently. Like, you will have a lot more dictation over your professional track record than you think you will, and then your peers. And that still leaves you so much life left. Again, let's take the highest number of what I said, of 60 hours for 10 years, right? What's the math? You're awake. Let's see. If you're awake 16 hours a day for 7 days a week, that's what, 112 hours. You still got 50 hours. That's roughly what, 40% of your life that you have completely free. And here's the thing. If you actually sustain that 60 hours a week continuously, like, you're also going to retire early. So like, then you're going to get to 100% of your time back in way faster than most people. So you can either, and let's say you flip that around and did your 40 hours a week. So you're going to give like 35% of your life for 50, 60 years, or you can give 40% of your life, or, you can give 60% of your life for 20 years and come out on top in the end. I just, the math doesn't make sense there. I understand the concept and the relevance to, the general societal shift, but I just think it's misconstrued. So, yeah. Other interesting article or thing that I saw that was very, very interesting was that it was 42% of women. Oh, no, sorry, not 42% of women. 42% more women take breaks than men throughout their career. And a lot of times it's due to parenting. And that, how do you overcome this, or what do you do? And the biggest thing that I can say is my first reaction to this was, I understand why it's being framed as women take more breaks than men. I don't know that that's anything new. I would argue that 42% statistic is probably lower than it used to be. I don't know, but to me, that number is irrelevant, and really just the people taking breaks. It's the same solution no matter what. If you're taking a break, about how to overcome it. And, because women are feeling like they're singled out and, shied away from because they chose to do it for parenting. And I don't know that it's any different than a man that did it, or that a man took a break because he was just burnt out and over it, or what. I mean, I think you have the same issue re-entering the workforce, whether you're a man, you're a woman, you're white, black, brown, blue, it doesn't matter. The immutable characteristic of you is irrelevant. The problem is the break. And how do you overcome the break? And there's going to be the people that say, oh, but a break shouldn't affect you and shouldn't negatively impact you. And blah, blah, but it's going to. Put yourself in the business's shoes. You are trying to hire people that are of the lowest risk possible. If you have somebody that was in the workforce for, let's say, 9 years and then just took a 3-year break, so 25% of their working career was a break, is that someone you want to gamble on versus somebody who's been killing it for 12 years straight? I get that some of you think it shouldn't be, but it is going to impact you. And this is coming from somebody who took a 2-year break, not only in the middle of their career, but at a huge pivoting point of their career in technology when the cloud was being heavily adopted. And when I came back and 80% of job descriptions and requirements were needing cloud level experience in cloud technology, I was at a detriment. So I had two choices. I could continue to stay out of the workforce and learn those cloud experiences, go get a certification, go get some education, something like that. Or I could jump in at a lower status and lower pay than what I was before because I was no longer of the same value. And I genuinely couldn't afford to take the time out of the workforce additionally. So that's what I had to do, was I went back in at a lower status and a lower pay, and I've had to overcome and remake the salary that I used to make. That's what I had to do. And that's really what it boils down to overcoming a break. If you have a break, you need to show that you are worth it still, or that you are hungry still. And this can be shown by having recent certifications, recent classes taken, recent skills developed, whatever it is. So on, your resume or your cover letter, you should be highlighting classes you've taken, Udemy courses, certifications gotten, whatever it is, and have them be hyper recent and hyper focused, meaning one of the earliest sections in your resume. So great, you have a 3-year gap. The last job you held was November 2021. But in July 2024, you got this certification. In November 2024, you got this certification. And they're gearing towards getting you back up and being updated into your skill set. Boom, I'm going to hire that person. 100%. So that's really what it boils down to. I don't think that the reason you took your leave or your gender or any of that other stuff, I don't think any of that matters. If you took a break, it's going to hurt you. The reason it's going to hurt you is because you are falling behind in skills every single day, not only from a practice perspective, but from a change perspective. And so when you come back, you need to show that you are both practiced and both recently updated. So that was that one. I just thought it was an interesting framing, and I think that it just really should have been geared towards how do you overcome a break in general. And then next one is one of my favorite ones, and I thought was super interesting. And I love these studies that are happening around different ways to kind of structure workforce between remote and hybrid and 4-day work weeks, 5-day work weeks. I love these types of things because I think the hardest part is for a company to deviate from these in some way, because society itself and, we'll say global commerce and these sorts of things make this very difficult. But it's really cool to see the results of some of the things. And the biggest thing with remote work that I think a lot of people forget is it's a very selfish approach to remote work, for one, which is they want remote because they feel they work better. They feel better and more fulfilled. But if the company's not actually getting the results, then your feelings are irrelevant. And that's the case with a lot of companies, not all of them. But it's just one of those things where those are always the posts and responses that I see is that, oh, it's about, employee satisfaction and employee engagement, and they feel better and this and yeah, but are the results there? Again, does the rubber hit the road? Spit and sawdust? Is the revenue the same? Those sorts of things. And so this was actually about a hybrid one. And so it was in Harvard Business Review. The company was trip.com. And so over the last 2 years, they have been testing productivity, promotions, performance reviews, etc., across their employees in where one set was 5 days in office and the other set was 3 days remote, 2 days in the office. Oh, now I got to double check. I try to do most of this stuff off memory. Son of a 3 days in office, 2 days remote. Sorry, I had it flipped. And what they found was that really nothing changed. And I think that hybrid, this is the case most of the time, because you still get that in-person interaction and collaboration and human element, and you still have a rooted company culture. I think that the more interesting dynamic is when you do go fully remote. I think there's a level of communication and culture that's much harder to overcome in that regard to really have a thriving team environment. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have hurdles that don't exist when you require in person. Let me actually rephrase. You have different hurdles because there's also hurdles when you're in person. But the key benefit does go back to the feelings part that I was saying that's a little less impactful most of the time, which is that it was a 35% lower attrition rate or turnover rate in terms of the employees themselves in the hybrid workforce. So here you have two sets of people who are no different on average and median in regards to performance review, in regards to productivity, in regards to leadership, in regards to impact, etc. But one of them has a 35% lower attrition rate. Okay, now you have a huge case for hybrid work, at least, right? Now, obviously, this study would need to be replicated and across companies, and I think that speaks a lot of commendations to their leadership to facilitate that level of culture and that impact. But this was just really cool to see that as someone who, I don't necessarily critique remote. I work fully remote, both for my side hustle and my day job. So like it can be done and it can be done well, but it's one of those things to where a lot of people focus on the feelings element and they ignore the company's point of view and what the company values and what they need out of their people. And this was just a really cool study to see. Like I said, it was Harvard Business Review, trips.com, and that overall, the company impact was the same from hybrid to on-site, but 35% lower attrition. Beautiful. Now, like that is arguably one of the best cases I've ever heard or ever seen or studies ever done for hybrid versus on-site. Like I said, I still think remote is the bigger outlier. And I do want to see this study replicated, but I just thought that was a really, really cool study to see. And then the other two things I actually wanted to talk about are, the October jobs report. If you saw my previous video about my intended election assumption and kind of its impact on the job market, this is just the most recent piece of evidence that is going to showcase what that video concluded. And it was job creation. The expected job creation results were either 111 or 113,000 for the month of October. Is what were intended to be net new in the U.S. economy. And it turned out to be 12,000. We're talking just over 10% of the goal was met. Find me a job that you can achieve 10% of your job and goals and still keep it. I'm not going to sit here and berate this and spend a lot of time on it. Like I said, if you want more of a broader scope of the way I think that the election is going to affect things, I think that this was just the nail in the coffin to solidify that at the end of the day, continuing anybody from the Biden-Harris administration is a terrible idea for the job market. Don't get me wrong. I also am not supporting them in general. I don't like most of the policies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, neither candidate was my preferred one in this election cycle. So please don't take me as a diehard Trumper either. Out of the two choices, I absolutely would pick Trump. But I mean, to literally the month before the election, to not have 90% of the jobs that you were supposed to create, that's insane. Like, that is failure of obscene level. So, yeah, we'll just leave that one there. The other one that I wanted to point out, which I thought was super interesting, which also kind of contributes to that political spectrum a little bit. So, regarding the unemployment rates. So something that's interesting, but both unemployment rates and job creation, right? So the interesting thing about how these two are inflated or affected negatively by the current state of the market is the fact that they are both artificial, or the unemployment rate is artificially deflated and the job creation is artificially inflated by people taking multiple jobs. So if I, for instance, myself, who I have my day job and I have a side hustle, right? Between this content creation and the business of promoted, I now count both of those things in their incorrect assessment, in that I am adding a job, at least one from the side hustle. If I employed people, I'd be adding those. But I guess they would actually be true jobs. But as long as it's just me as a solopreneur, I both added a job to these statistics, and I also contributed to the decrease of the unemployment rate because it's also another job taken. So one of the things that I just wanted to piggyback on how those things really are. And so this one was from the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, that they polled a decent amount of people, and it was how many U.S. workers have a side hustle. And it is almost 1 in 3. The interesting thing about this is that the way the poll was structured was how many people have a side hustle that is generating income. That's the number that's almost 1 in 3. And it was 30% to be exact. So just under. So instead of 33% of 1 in 3, it was 30%. What about the people who are starting a side hustle or have a side hustle that isn't generating income yet? That's also an unknown number from this. So that could bump this to 35, 40, 45 people or percent of people. That's insane that many people in the current economy are feeling like they have to take on a side hustle. And I'm going to, again, sort of similar to the video where I kind of attacked from both angles, the promotion one, I'm going to attack this from both sides, that it's both awesome and terrible all at the same time. it is terrible that people feel like they have to have a side hustle in order to get by or meet their goals or retire early or whatever it is. Because there's probably some of those people who just, or some of these people who just feel that way that they have to do it. Some of them, it's probably them moonlighting and having a passion. There's always been some percentage of people that have done this. So I'm not necessarily thinking that all these people are just overworked and overburdened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it also just goes to show that for those of you that are hungry, you can pull it off. You can do it. And if 1 in 3 people can generate side income, so can you. That's 1 in 3. Like, that's a significant amount of people. So, and then you have, I think it was an additional 6% of people who just flat out have 2 or more jobs. So you're talking 36% of people are pulling off multiple jobs. Like, for those of you who are saying you can't even compete at one job, your excuses are wearing thin. Sorry, you might need some help. You might need some coaching in regards to prioritization, time management, helping you find the career that suits you. But yeah, the numbers just speak for itself, right? We have 30% of people generating income from business ownership as a side hustle, and another 6% working a second job. I think this contributes to the fact that, like, it's never been easier. Because if you have this cohort of people, then you have the cohort of people who are just hungry achievers on their one thing. You combine those people, and we're talking, what, 70, 80% of people. Like, it's both, it's never been easier. And for those of you who are saying it can't be done, like, you're being proven wrong on a daily basis by all the statistics. So yeah, like I said, I want to do something a little bit different as opposed to just kind of my own content and coaching. And I wanted to give a little bit of some news review, things that came across my feed that I found interesting. I wanted to comment on. And so if you like this, like I said, like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below. If you have any questions, concerns, anything, feel free to comment. I'll respond. I definitely want to build this active community. Speaking of, we did start a community for Promoted over on Skool, and that will be linked down below in the signature, or in the description, sorry. If you do join the Skool community, then you'll get 2 hours of free one-on-one coaching from me. I'm very excited about this. I really want to build a community over time of just like-minded professionals where we are all just feeding off of each other and helping each other improve, and have a variety of sectors and career levels and people, and just really bring the people together who want to be their best selves in a professional sense. So please join the Skool community. You get 2 hours of free coaching, and I'm also putting content out there that's going to be unique to there, that are going to be actual courses, which are going to be my coachings. And for the time being, it is a free community. I might make it paid in the future. I'm likely going to make it paid in the future once I have a bunch of course materials and things out there. So again, get the double dip of the free coaching in the near future, as well as it being free for life until, unless I increase the price in the future. And then at that point, if you don't leave and come back, then it will be free for you forever. So if you stay in the community and you join now, you get 2 hours of free coaching, and it'll be free forever. What's the cost? So otherwise, thank you again. I appreciate your time. And until next week, enjoy.